I own a Fuji X-T20 camera, and a very fine camera it is too. It has 24.3 megapixels, an APS-C sensor, and shoots 4K video. I also have an XF 100 to 400mm lens, which is equivalent to a 150 to 600mm lens for a full frame camera. Recently I picked up a Panasonic Lumix G80 camera second hand. This has 16 megapixels, a micro four thirds sensor, and also shoots 4K. To go with that, I have a Panasonic HFSA 100-300 lens, which, because micro four thirds cameras have a crop factor of 2, is equivalent to a 200 to 600mm lens on a full frame camera. Coincidentally, this is the same maximum focal length as the Fuji lens. The Lumix G80 has fewer megapixels and a smaller sensor, so the picture quality is never going to be quite as good as the Fuji. However, where it scores is in weight. The Fuji camera and lens tips in at just over 1.7 kilograms, whereas the Lumix camera with its lens comes in just over 1 kilo, despite the fact the camera body is actually slightly heavier. Two things to point out. Firstly, this weight doesn't include the weight of the kit lens shown in the photograph. Furthermore, you could save even more weight by opting for a Lumix GX80 instead of a G80, although I don't think the ergonomics are quite as good. Anyway, how to put the Lumix G80 through its paces. First I caught a train west from York for a couple of stops till I got to Micklefield railway station. Then I walked down onto the Great North Road and headed southeast for about a mile till I came to the Best Western Plus Milford Hotel, not to be confused with the South Milford Hotel, which is about a mile further on and in my opinion isn't quite as good. Having checked in, I then crossed the A63, hopping over the crash barrier on the central reservation in the process, and then crossed a muddy field via a public footpath, through some woods until Ledston Lodge, a Grade 1 listed building built in the mid-17th century but somewhat modified. Not the driest or brightest April weather I've ever seen. More woods and a minor road lead down into the village of Ledsham. Here there is All Saints Parish Church, which apparently, according to Wikipedia, is the oldest existing building in West Yorkshire, dating back to AD 700. I saw this noisy creature just to the south of Ledsham, hovering and staring at electricity pylons. And then the real reason I came, RSPB Fairburn Ings. Unfortunately, it was under about 1.5 feet of water. The only part that was accessible was the raised decking just to the left of the car park and the entrance gate. From here you could see some tufted ducks bobbing about. Mallard ducks were also to be seen, as well as this pair. They look like mallards, but surely the colouring's all wrong, isn't it? Perhaps they're crossbred with another species of duck. Also great crested grebe and a rather tame reed bunting. Anyway, none of the bird hides seemed to be accessible, so I headed down Newton Lane in the hope of accessing some of the westerly parts of the reserve. Not much luck there. This is what Newton Lane looked like. So I had to take a public footpath across higher ground, eventually arriving at Ledston and then on to Allerton Bywater, It became clear that the main road to Castleford was also flooded, at which point I gave up and went back to the hotel. On Wednesday, I took a bus from right outside the hotel to Allerton Bywater. At least I would have done, but the road just south of Ledston was flooded, which meant the bus had to back up all the way through Ledston and come down via the main road. Then I walked along the old railway line for a bit before cutting down south to the first of the ponds. Here was a familiar sight. No matter. After pausing briefly to snap some tufted ducks and a mute swan, I continued on to the next pond, where I had rather more luck. Here were quite a number of Canada geese. Then I walked around the south side of the reserve and tried to cut across the causeway that bisects St. Aidans in two. No luck there. So I went back the way I came, across some extremely boggy ground. On the north side things were a bit busier, including a mute swan, a banded snail, I think, and another mute swan who, shortly after this photograph was taken, ran down the road and took off beside me, and a noisy pair of grey-lag geese. Also to be seen were a great deal of black-headed gulls, coot, and reed bunting. Also great crested grebe and pochard, as well as many tufted ducks. And then a rather muddy walk back to the hotel via Great Preston, the old railway line, Kippax and Ledston. By this time I was fed up of trudging through mud, so on sunny Thursday I caught the bus to Selby. Selby Abbey is a rare example of an abbey church that survived the dissolution of the monasteries. It is not a cathedral, although it is larger than several churches that are classed as cathedrals. After a few snaps of the exterior, I caught another bus to Barlow Common Nature Reserve, which has charming views of the Drax Power Station cooling towers. Near the entrance is a pond with a birch wood behind it. Here I saw a blue tit and a great tit. Much of the rest of the reserve is covered in teasels. There are also ponds of various sizes and a number of woody bits. This is a rare and exotic blackbird, and this is a coot tackling a small fish. And this is Britain's smallest and most widespread grebe, the little grebe. Finally, a goldfinch. And a kestrel. Robins were also very much in evidence. Then back to Selby for a quick cup of tea and a toasted tea cake, and a look at the inside of the Abbey Church. And finally the bus back to my hotel. If you have been, thanks for watching. Bye.